Hello and welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into an absolutely incredible story today. It's called The Reward of Rain, a tale of karma and brotherhood. It's a journey that really makes you rethink how the absolute worst disasters in our lives can sometimes flip into our greatest blessings.
So think about this for a second. How exactly does an endless, completely destructive rainstorm, the kind that steals your livelihood and ruins your home, somehow become the greatest blessing of a poor laborer's life? Sounds crazy, right? But that is exactly the magic of the story we're unpacking today. Our protagonist, Diru, experiences this terrifying, unstoppable storm that kicks off an unbelievable chain of events.
Part 1. The Cruel Blow of Rain.
Let's set the scene. We meet Diru and his wife, Kajri. Diru is an impoverished laborer, and for them, this endless rain isn't just an inconvenience, it's literally a matter of life and death. It's a domino effect of misery. On day 1, Diru is totally stranded at home. No work means no wages. By day 2, the roof gives out. It starts leaking, and every single penny his wife had carefully saved up gets completely soaked and ruined. And then, by day 3, he's desperate. He's starving, so he is forced to go out and work in that freezing, torrential downpour, falls incredibly sick, and ends up dropping a vital sack of grain.
This brings us to Part 2, Society's Bitter Contempt. You see, Diru isn't just battling the weather. He's fighting a daily battle against the sheer coldness of his own village. Now, to most of us, the word orphan just means someone who tragically lost their parents. But in this specific village, it's completely different. Being an orphan means you're branded as a curse. You have absolutely zero social standing, no human empathy whatsoever. Because he's so isolated, Diru becomes this incredibly easy target for baseless hatred from the very people he lives right next to.
You are cursed. That's why you have no relatives or kin. I mean, just let the sheer cruelty of that sink in. This wasn't just a one-off insult. This is the toxic venom the villagers are pouring into Diru's ears day in and day out. And honestly, the most heartbreaking part of it all, Diru never fights back. He just quietly takes it, enduring this massive social stigma, holding on to this tiny hope that maybe one day they'll accept him.
Let's move into Part 3, True Test of Humanity.
Right in the middle of all this crushing despair, Diru spots a couple, Raman and Janki, completely stranded under a tree during this raging storm. They're complete strangers to the village. And this right here is where we see what true humanity actually looks like. Think about the contrast. We've got Diru. His roof is leaking, he is basically starving, yet his heart is big enough to bring these strangers into his tiny, broken home. Then look at his employer, Thakur Durjan Pratap. The man is sitting on mountains of cash, but he is totally morally bankrupt. Greedy, ruthless. It's such a stark reminder that true wealth has absolutely nothing to do with your bank balance. It's all about your compassion.
Part 4. Thakur's Unjust Decision.
So remember how Diru forced himself to work in the freezing rain and drop that sack of grain? Well, his goodness to those strangers didn't magically save him from the consequences at work. In his weakened, sick state, that single ruined sack becomes his downfall. The Thakur finds out and is just absolutely furious. He slaps Diru with this completely absurd, cruel penalty. He demands 3 times the cost of the ruined sack. 3 times! He fires Diru right on the spot and tells him to never show his face again until the debt is paid. He completely crushes a man who is literally already surviving on the absolute edge.
At this point in the story, we are totally hanging on the edge of our seats. I mean, how on earth could a ruined, deeply indebted laborer possibly get out of this nightmare? And what about Raman and Janki, those mysterious guests staying at his house? Are they just going to sit back and watch this happen, or do they fit into this puzzle somehow? Which brings us to our final act, Part 5, Truth and Fruit of Karma.
It turns out it was finally time for Diru's incredibly selfless actions to pay off. See, Diru thought he was just putting a roof over the heads of 2 helpless travelers. But Raman was actually a highly successful, incredibly wealthy city merchant. We have a lot of money, but in matters of relationships, we are poor. That's exactly why they hid their true identity. Just like Diru, they felt orphaned. They were terrified that if people knew how rich they were, they'd only be treated well because of the money, not for who they really were.
So that one single night of unconditional kindness, it literally triggers an avalanche of miracles. Raman steps right in and pays off that ridiculous, unjust debt without breaking a sweat. Diru gets his dignity back, throws the money right in the Thakur's face, and walks away from that toxic job for good. But wait, it gets better. Raman offers Diru a full business partnership in the city.
And then, the absolute ultimate miracle happens. Raman spots a very specific, unique birthmark on Diru's neck. Diru wasn't just some random kind stranger, he was Raman's own long-lost brother. The universe had literally used that terrifying storm to pull them back together, and Diru goes on to become far wealthier and infinitely more respected than the Thakur ever was.
It's just such a beautiful, poetic symmetry, isn't it? The very same destructive rain that threatened to drown Diru, the storm that almost completely ruined his life, was ultimately the exact thing that washed away his poverty and brought his true family back home. It really goes to show that sometimes the absolute most brutal storms in our lives are actually carrying our greatest, most unexpected blessings.
Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really think about. The rest of the village completely ignored those strangers. The Thakur, he only saw his own greed, but Diru helped without wanting a single thing in return. If he had just locked his door that night, like everyone else, he never would have found his brother. So, in a world that is so incredibly quick to judge and condemn, how often do we miss the chance to shelter our own miracles? Because unconditional compassion really does have the power to change everything. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.